Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10-Minute Bible Lesson. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. Our lessons have been about the life of Samson, and what a life. I mean, think about this guy's life and the story about his life. It's just amazing. So God raised Samson up from his birth. God raised him up from his birth to deliver his people from the Philistines. And that was kind of Samson's whole purpose in his life. And so the plan, the plan that God had for Samson's life to deliver the children of Israel from the Philistines was kind of an unusual plan. I would have never thought of the way that God directed Samson's life to bring about this battle between himself and the Philistines. I would have never figured it out, but it all started with a woman. And I'm not talking about Delilah. It was another woman. So he saw a woman, a Philistine woman, and he really liked her. And listen, he wanted to marry her. And so he was making these trips down there to this place where she lived. And on one of his trips, something happened that's really surprised him. Listen, I could tell you it'd been more of a surprise to me if this happened. Let me read about it, what it was in Judges chapter 14, verse 5. So listen to this. So Samson went down to Timnah, that's where this girl lived, with his father and mother, and came to the vineyards of Timnah. Now to his surprise, a young lion came roaring against him. That would have been more than a surprise to me. I mean, I don't know what I'd have done. I can't tell you. It would be too embarrassing. But I was just thinking about this. And now remember what I said, that even this was part of God's plan. I mean, you'll see it after we get down into the lesson a little bit more. So, yes, there were lions in that country. And now there are not any lions in that country now, but there were lions back in those days at that time. But this lion made a big mistake. You know, he jumped out and got a hold of the wrong guy. He should have waited and let Samson pass. Well, let's read about it in verse 6 of Judges chapter 14. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he tore the lion apart as one would have torn apart a young goat, though he had nothing in his hand. But he did not tell his father or mother what he had done. Now, Samson's mother and father, they weren't with him at this time, and I'm not sure where they were. The Bible really is not clear about it. They could have been down there at Timnah talking to this girl's parents, making these arrangements. I'm not sure what happened, but this lion jumped out at Samson, and here's what's interesting. The Bible says that Samson, he tore apart. Can you just picture that? Somehow in my mind, it's just something I can't hardly picture in my head. This guy was so strong. The Spirit came upon him. He grabbed that lion and tore the lion apart like he would like a little kid goat. And so I thought that was interesting. Now, how did he do that? Well, the Bible says the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. And now, here's something that's kind of part of the plan of God too, because the Bible says that Samson didn't tell his mother or his father. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Can you imagine that? So I'm thinking I would never, ever try to attack a lion with my bare hands. I mean, I would never do that. I'm such a coward, I wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't even go on a safari or anything and shoot a lion. But if I happened to do that and I happened to kill a lion, I would be telling everybody, look what I've done. I've killed a lion. Well, listen what, Samson didn't do that. He was quiet about it. He didn't say anything. So another time on one of the trips that he was making down to visit his fiancée, you might say, and she really, really pleased him. Well, on the way back, he turned aside to see the body of that lion. And when he got to that lion, there was a hive of bees in the carcass of that lion. And not only was there a hive of bees, but there was honey in this carcass. So he reached down and got some of that honey, and he began to eat that honey, and he gathered some of it. And the Bible says that he took it back to his father and his mother. But listen, he didn't tell them about it. Now that's interesting too. I think it's kind of part of God's plan. So now there's a big feast, a big wedding feast that's going to go on, and Samson tells this. He makes up this riddle based on what he did to that lion and what happened to that lion. And the riddle he posed to some Philistine men who were going to be part of that wedding. So it was all based on what he did to that lion. So let's look at Judges chapter 14, verse 13. Then Samson said to them, let me pose a riddle to you. If you can correctly solve and explain it to me within 7 days of the feast, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing. Now that's a lot of clothes. You know, if you got just one change of clothes would be quite a bit, but no, the wager or the riddle was that he would give them 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing. So you could say it was just a wager. So if they couldn't solve the riddle, they would have to give all of those clothes to Samson. But if they did solve the riddle, then Samson would have to give all of those clothes to those 30 Philistines. So I think that's kind of interesting. Well, let's read a little bit more in Judges chapter 14, verse 14. So it says, so he said, here's the riddle. Are you ready for the riddle? So he said to them, out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. Now for 3 days they could not explain the riddle. In fact, you know what? No one could explain the riddle. I'm thinking that somehow God had impressed upon Samson not to tell his mother and father and not to tell anyone about killing that lion and about the honey that was in it. In fact, he kept it a secret. The only people that knew about that was God and Samson. That was the only two. And so he posed this riddle to these guys, and these guys couldn't solve it. And they started getting mad. I mean, they were really mad. And they came to Samson's wife, and they told her that she needed to go and she needed to get to entice her husband to tell them the riddle. Now, why would she do that? Because they said that if you don't do that, we're going to burn you. We're going to burn you and your house and your father. So you can see she was kind of in a spot, a tough spot. So what did she do? She began to cry and whine and weep and fall upon Samson. In fact, she just kept bugging him and bugging him and bugging him. She kept on and kept on until you know, she even said this. She says, you don't love me. You don't love me, Samson, or you'd tell me that riddle. Wow. Poor Samson. I mean, he's in a tough spot. Well, let's go ahead and read our last verse. Judges chapter 14, verse 17. Now she had wept upon him the 7 days while their feast lasted. What a feast, right? Not too much fun. And it happened on the 7th day, listen, are you ready for this? That he told her, because she pressed him so much. Then she explained the riddle to the sons of her people. There you go. There you go. Well, you know, you can't blame her too awful much. She was trying to save her life and save her family's life. And we're going to have to wait till next time to find out the rest. Now, remember, I told you that God raised up Samson from birth to be a deliverer for his people. And I told you also that it was really going to be an unusual way. And all of this that I'm telling you today is part of the plan that God had to deliver his people. And we're going to have to look at it next time. But listen, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. And we hope that you have a good week.